All right, what is up, folks? So I'm going to start this video with a very serious trigger warning. Yeah, honestly, this is probably the darkest side of humanity. Yeah, this is a case of Christopher Lee Watts, this white man's descending to complete madness. I have seen this case on the news a while back. This happened nearly 8 years ago. I had almost completely forgotten about it. It was on the back of my mind, right? So, yeah, it was one of my channel members. Thank you for requesting me to cover this story. I won't share too much details because I don't know what to say, man. Something terrible is happening. I will give you guys the very, very basics, but if you guys want to dig a little bit deeper, definitely look up this case, Christopher Lee Watts, right? So this man, he descended into madness and he brutally murdered his entire family in probably the worst way imaginable. So this is just so heartbreaking because, yeah, just have a look at this beautiful family photo. Yeah, that was so there in the photo you have the murderer, Chris Watts, and then his wife at the time, 34, Shannon. By the way, during the murder of the entire Watts' family, his wife Shannon's actually 15 weeks pregnant. So yeah, this is actually a quadruple homicide, and you see his two daughters, Bella and Celeste. So this murder took place on August 13th of 2018. And yeah, once again, I've already given you guys a trigger warning. I'll just cover the very basics. And obviously, right after the disappearance of the Watts family, Chris became the prime suspect. And just a few days later, he confessed to his own father about murdering his entire family. Yeah, he first murdered his wife by strangulation, obviously already knowing that his wife is already pregnant. And so Chris is an oil man. He works for a petroleum company. So he actually dug a very shallow grave near an oil field. That's where he buried his dead wife, which he murdered by strangulation in the neck. And right after murdering his pregnant wife, his two daughters, so just 3 and 4 years old, yeah, he murdered them by suffocation, by stuffing them into an oil barrel. So yeah, by the way, yeah, the oil barrel was only about 8 inches or 20 centimeters wide. So I mean, maybe this wide. And yeah, he shoved his two daughters into the oil barrels, forcing them to be crushed and suffocated to death. I don't know what to say, man. I had almost completely forgotten about this case until one of my channel members requested this. Well, the vast majority of the time when you see something as insane as this, right, typically what happens is, right, the murderer, typically a guy, he will also end his own life. But for some reason, well, Chris decided to continue to live on. And yeah, he's been removed to a maximum security prison. Honestly, this is why I believe in the death sentence. So some people say it's controversial and some people say they're against it is because when something as heinous as this happens, right, that suspect has to live out the rest of his or her life, right, to suffer the consequences. You have to make sure they suffer for the next 30, 40, 50 years, right? This couple is from North Carolina. So yeah, Chris has been handed 5 consecutive life sentences. I want to share something very personal because this story actually really resonates with. Yeah, I just want to share with you guys something very personal because this case really resonates with me. So the Watts family, they actually lived in a beautiful 5-bedroom mansion. They purchased all the way back in 2013. So they met in 2010 in North Carolina. They got married in 2012. They purchased a 5-bedroom mansion in 2013. Unfortunately, just 2 years later, so in 2015, right, the Watts family, they filed for bankruptcy. So here's what I think happened, right? I can actually relate to this case on a personal level because my dad and my aunts and my uncles, a lot of my family members, I think they have gone through something very similar. That's why I talk about the nuclear family, right? When the family falls apart, everything in our society falls. Also, right, it is reported that Chris's wife, Shannon, she was working for what do you call it? MLM, right? Multi-level marketing company. It's called Thrive. The vast majority of the time, it's a pyramid scheme, it's a scam, so she likely lost out on a lot of money. That probably caused a lot of, heated arguments during their marriage. It is revealed, it is confirmed that Chris has been cheating on his wife, and so he has a mistress. And Shannon talked about this before she was murdered. She was actually talking to Chris about going to the abortion clinic to get rid of the baby. That way, it's easier to end their marriage, right? So they can get separated, so they can get divorced, so Chris can be with his mistress. A few things, all right? First of all, I said this before. Abortion's murder, okay? Well, here's the thing. Okay, if Chris, let's say he did not go insane, he did not turn to the dark side and murder his entire family, and if Shannon just decided, okay, even if there was no infidelity, right, there was no cheating, she decides that, you know what, I already have 2 daughters, I don't want to raise another kid, it's just too much stress, takes too much time, she goes to the abortion clinic, nothing happens. All the feminists, all the white liberal women, they will be celebrating. They will say like, oh, good for you, girl, female empowerment, right? Shatter the glass ceiling, right? A woman will take over the world. We crush the patriarchy. However, right? If, let's say, Chris, I'm not obviously talking about the murder. If he decides that, raising 3 kids in, the 21st century is too much stress, right? With all this inflation, the cost of living, everything. And if he decides to slip a pill into Shannon's drink and that caused a miscarriage, right? Well, Chris will be charged with first-degree murder. So, yeah, it's a lot of hypocrisy on this abortion argument because a man has absolute zero saying, right? The only person ultimately that decides if the fetus has any intrinsic value is the woman. But once again, right, I think both sides must have a say in this, right? It must be an agreement by both partners, right? You guys created this life together. Keep in mind, it's very, very important, right? It is revealed, it is confirmed that Chris is cheating. So obviously, if you look at Chris, right, Chris Watts, obviously he's an absolutely insane pathological murderer, right? He's gone off the deep end. I can never ever imagine something like this, right? The fact that he shoved his 2 innocent daughters, Bella and Celeste, into an oil barrel that is only 8 inches or 20 centimeters until they were crushed and suffocated to death. I mean, this is demonic. It's no doubt about it. Demons do live amongst us. So the cheating scandal, and I mentioned this before, and that's why I said China needs to bring back arranged marriage. So what happens when you allow free dating? Okay, take out the financial aspect. Let's say equal playing field, right? Let's say if you're at university or college, almost everybody's broke, right? Unless with maybe the less than 5% exception, right? You have super rich parents that can help you out, and 95% of the students, they're going to be in debt, right? They have no money. However, right? I've seen this so many times, right? You go to a bar or a club, right? It could be on campus or near campus, Friday night, Saturday night. Let's say, you have guys' night out and girls' night out, right? 10 girls walk into the bar and 10 guys walk into the bar or a club, right? Maybe out of the 10 guys, right? 9 of them are single. 1 guy is in a relationship. The woman, okay, they can always find that 1 guy out of a group of 10, right? The other 9 guys, perfectly fine. All of them young, good-looking, attractive, in shape, single. They don't want them. They all only want that 1 guy that's in a relationship. I'm sure you guys all know about the wedding ring effect, right? So, if it's just a guy, it's an average Joe, right? Let's say this guy is out of town on a business trip, right? But if this guy, right, let's say just, average looking, pretty mid, right? And he's just wearing a normal outfit. He does not have a wedding ring. And let's say he goes to sit at a bar at a Friday night or Saturday night. So, the bartender or the waitress will never, ever try to engage with this guy. And she will never, ever try to have a conversation with this guy who's an average Joe. But let's say, once again, right, a guy who's not particularly attractive, not particularly tall or good looking, right, doesn't have a lot of money. But this time, right, he's just wearing a normal outfit. Friday, Saturday night, he's out of town on a business trip, and he's having a drink at a bar. This time, he has a ring on his wedding finger. Yeah, guess what happens, right? Vast majority of the time, 80 to 90% of the time, the waitresses and the bartenders, they will give all of their attention to this man who they know is married, right? And they will never ever talk to the guy who is single, unless the guy looks like, Denzel Washington or Henry Cavill or something, right? For the vast majority of the guys, they're absolutely invisible. But once they put on that wedding ring, all of a sudden, right, 80 to 90% of the women find that guy to be very, very attractive. Yeah, I want to talk about something more sinister for this case. why did, all the way back in 2015, how come the Watts family filed for bankruptcy? Well, I mentioned obviously, so Shannon, she's working for a multi-level marketing company, so most likely a pyramid scheme. Most likely she lost a lot of money. It's one of those companies that promise you like pay us $1,000 to join, and then we have a monthly membership. Yeah, after that you pay like $50 a month, but you can make $10,000 a month. But of course, all of that is a lie. So that's part of the reason. Something bigger is happening. And yeah, this is a hint for a future video. Yeah, I think this is a great topic for a full-length documentary. I will personally investigate the gambling capital of the world. A lot of you guys might be thinking, oh, well, you're just going to Vegas, right? No, I'm not going to Las Vegas. So the gambling capital of the world is actually in China. It's in Macau, China. It used to be a Portuguese colony until the end of 1999. I believe, the gambling revenue in Macau, it's something like, I believe it's actually anywhere between 8 to 10 times compared to the United States. Now, this is astronomical when you think about it, right? Because $1 is actually 7.2 Chinese yuan. So for the gambling revenue in Macau to be 8 to 10 times greater than Las Vegas, yeah, just think about how much the average Chinese citizen is spending all of their money on gambling, right? So it's absolutely outrageous. It's probably one of the darkest sides about Asian culture. A lot of people say, oh, are Asians model citizens, right? Well, I would say I talk about obviously the smoking epidemic is absolutely terrible, right? The vast majority of Chinese men smoke way too many cigarettes. And also the gambling epidemic. It's way worse than anything you can imagine. I can actually relate to this on so many personal levels is because even though it's not confirmed, I think it's very possible Chris, he was caught up in some kind of gambling addiction scandal. So I did tell you guys, this happened in 2011. Unfortunately, it was a very, very dark time period for me as well. I told you guys, I graduated from high school in 2010. Although for the next 2 years, I just worked at a gas station for minimum wage. Life was pretty miserable. That's how I got extremely fat. I told you guys at one point I was morbidly obese. And now my weight is also going back up, but it's okay. I'm going to start exercising once again. I'm going to get back to my running routine. And once I build some base, I will start with a half marathon training and then full marathon training. So I'll get my weight back under control. Yeah, it was an extremely dark time period during my life from 2010 to 2012. Eventually, I tried to go to university in 2012, but once again, I was so depressed. I was in so much pain. I was suffering from so much anxiety and depression. I ended up dropping out. So yeah, 2011, at the time, I was making minimum wage. So yeah, it was $10 an hour, right? So how long do you guys think it takes for me to earn $1,500 on $10 an hour, right? So yeah, you're looking at over a month's work. Yeah, and my boss at the time, his English name was actually Billy, and his last name was Bang. A Korean guy. His name was Billy Bang. And he just owed me so much money. And I never ever got a paycheck on time. And it took me probably close to a year to save up $1,500 into my checkings account. And at the time, my dad, I was still in communication with him. We lived in the same town, although obviously I did not live with him. He's been extremely abusive. I was forced to live on my own since I was 15. And every single day, he has to go to a casino, okay? This casino is in a town called Brantford, Ontario. So that town has maybe 100,000 people. It was a very long drive. It was over 80 kilometers to the casino, but that's how bad my dad's gambling addiction was, because playing online poker every single day was not good enough for him. He has to actually go to the casino. And yeah, sometimes he would spend 24 hours, 36 hours, and 48 hours, right? And there was one time he said, oh, just come, like we're going to have a talk. And I want you to drive me to the casino just so you can get some practice in with driving a car, because at the time I did not own a car. So he wanted me to improve my driving skills. So he asked me to drive him to the casino, and I would drive back. And he said that he would just call me maybe at the end of the day, 8, 10, 12 hours later. Then basically, I would drive back to the casino in the evening time to pick him up and drive him back home. It happened 3 times. I drove him to the casino, right? So keep in mind, right? So I had about $1,500 saved up in my checkings account. And at this point, you guys already know, right? The whole business is rigged. How do you think those casinos make money? You're there to piss your money away. That's it. And you guys think, oh, Asians are smart. Chinese people are smart, especially Chinese men, right? I tell them that's why I don't gamble. Like, you do realize the whole system is rigged to steal away all of your money. And sometimes, yes, they practice usury in China as well. They have these loan sharks, right? So right after you lose at the casino, right after you lose 5K, 10K, they say, don't worry, we'll lend you $50,000, right? Just keep gambling on, keep pissing off your money away. Yeah, we'll lend you $50,000, but how about this? We'll charge 50% interest rate. Yeah, you can just slowly pay it back whenever you have the time, right? So many Chinese men has gone into bankruptcy. When my dad, the 3 times I drove him to the casino in Brentford, he lost all of his money. At the time, there was a limit in my bank account, right? So I could only withdraw $500 maximum at a time, right? First time I pick up my dad at the casino, he lost all of his money, right? And so he forced me to withdraw $500 from my checking account. Obviously, I said no. I said, I'm living on my own. Okay, I'm miserable. I don't have any money. I'm making minimum wage. My boss almost never pays me on time. Keeps screwing me over. He keeps changing the schedule, right? Like, for example, one week I worked 43 hours. He says I only worked 35. Every single week was a massive struggle. Yeah, 3 times. He grabbed me like right by the neck. Not exactly by the neck, but it was like this. And he was screaming in Mandarin Chinese because he, obviously my dad, he does not really speak any English at all. And everybody around the casino was looking at us. He threatened to murder me. He said, yeah, if you don't withdraw all of your money from checking account right now, he said, I will drag your ass back to the car. I will suffocate you. I will choke you. I will murder you. And I will dump your dead body in an empty field. He threatened me 3 times. And this is all 100% real. And obviously, almost 8 years have passed. Maybe someone should bring this case back to light, because I think there's a very, very high possibility is that, this is exactly what happened to Christopher Watts, right? He got caught in this gambling epidemic. He got caught in this mirage, this foolishness, this fantasy, this dreamland, thinking that he can gamble his way to becoming a multi-millionaire. And maybe he was caught in some kind of usury trap. He took out money from loan sharks. Once he lost 10 grand, right, he took out a loan of 50 grand. Once he lost that 50 grand, he took out another loan for 200 grand. And maybe it was 25, 30, 35% interest rate. And, maybe it's possible by the time he murdered his entire family, he was $1 million in debt. And if you guys are wondering why, you say, oh, if your dad is that crazy, if he literally threatened to murder you and dump your dead body into an empty field, why still try to interact with him? I told you guys, for so long, right, for so many years, I've tried to cut out my dad completely from my life. And once again, my mom is borderline psycho as well. So by the release of this video, yeah, she has been divorced 7 times. Yeah. What do you guys want me to say? Oh, as of right now, yes, I have completely blocked off my dad on every single possible contact. There's no way for him to reach me. I've tried to block him so many times, but every time I block him, after a period of couple months, he will start calling my mom. He'll say that, oh my God, I miss our son. What's happening? I just want to be a, great father. I want to be there to take care of him. I miss him so bad. I just say, tell him to come back to my life. Then my mom would basically start just spam calling me, spam texting me, and during these video calls, she's saying that, oh my God, don't be an asshole to your dad, just be nice to him. By the way, I told you guys, right? My mom married my dad back in 1991, and she realized my dad was basically, absolutely, he was an insane psychopath. He was completely out of his mind. He is literally probably this close, right, to becoming the next Chris Watts, to become the next John Wayne Gacy or the Jeffrey Dahmer or Dylan Klebold or Eric Harris. Like, I'm talking about literally this close. So my mom realized my dad was completely insane. After 2 years, she could not take it. She filed for divorce in 1993. She could not take him for 2 years. Imagine me trying to deal with my dad for 33 years, right? Every single day it's been like that. If you guys are wondering eventually what happened, well, the casino in Brentford, eventually they banned my dad from ever entering that casino ever again, because every single time at the casino, right, he goes there to lose money. Let's be honest, he loses money like over 90% of the time. All of the years he went to that casino, he probably lost at least 100,000. I'm being 100% honest, right? Just those 3 trips there, 3 days in a row, he lost $1,500. And if I refused to withdraw money from the ATM, he threatened to murder me in cold blood. Like there was no remorse or anything. There was only pure anger. There was only pure rage. Then so what happens is, when my dad, every time he goes to the casino, when he loses, he starts cussing. Like, the F word, the B word, the C word, the S word, obviously all in Mandarin Chinese, right? So the vast majority of the workers, right, they did not know what my dad was saying. So they told him to calm down. But my dad, he barely speaks any English. And also, when you're losing like $500, $1,000 every single day at the casino, when you lose like $100,000 over the course of, who knows, 3, 4, 5 years at the casino. So yeah, he got extremely angry. He was constantly screaming and bitching. Eventually, yeah, he was actually escorted out of the casino by a white cop. Yes, I know this because he actually told me. It was like a really, really big, muscular white cop, and he basically dragged my dad out of the casino, and he was told he has been banned for life. Yeah, that's what I have to deal with. That's my family. That's my reality. And that's why I blocked off my dad so many times. Every time, right? I block off my dad, he calls my mom. And then my mom starts abusing me. She's like, oh, you have to talk to your dad. You have to talk to your dad. And this is exactly why last time my dad threatened to murder me, which was last June. I gave my mom one final warning. I said basically, yeah, F-U-C-K to every single one of you, including you, mom, because you're a crazy ass bitch as well. If you threaten this on me once again, if you want me to contact my dad once again, then I will block you off again as well. I will never ever talk to you. I will never ever see you. I will never ever speak to you once again. Because you don't understand, he's constantly threatening to murder me every single day. And I tried everything to make things work, but I can't. You have to realize he's insane. You were married to him for 2 years. You realize he's insane. And keep in mind, right, he divorced my mom in 1993, summer of 1994. He marries to my current stepmom, a former prostitute. She worked as a prostitute. She went to the southern China. She went to the city of Shenzhen. So yeah, and that's my dad. And also, yes, my dad is the modern equivalent of a registered sex offender. When my dad was younger, it was known, right? I was born in a small town of 30,000 people. I was born in the suburbs. Everybody knew him, right? My dad, during his younger days, he's raped multiple women. Yeah. So yeah, you're looking at someone who is a registered sex offender and he's married to a prostitute. This is the guy you choose to marry. And this is why I said, right, China needs to bring back arranged marriages, right? This is what happens when you give these modern women free will to choose whoever they want to date, to choose whoever they want to marry. And my mom, right, she ended up choosing someone just like my dad. And who is going to be the ones that's going to be suffering from all of this? It's the children. It's the innocent, right? The unborn 15-week-old child that was inside of Shannon's womb. It's people like Bella. It's people like Celeste. It's the next generation that always has to suffer the consequences from the previous generation every single time. Yeah, you guys have all seen the recent mass murder, right, in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, the trans madness. If you wonder why, right, the LGBTQ plus population, why is it skyrocketing like this? Yeah, ask all of those kids what's happening back home. Because no normal dude will ever wake up one morning and says that, oh, I feel like I'm a woman and I want to cut my balls off. If you guys are wondering why, right, back in 2011, how come I turned morbidly obese at the age of just 19? Want to know something interesting? By the way, this has nothing to do with, racial stereotypes. It's just a fact. What is the fattest demographic in America? Okay? African Americans. More specifically, Black women. Okay, this is a fact. Roughly 80% of Black women are overweight, 57% are considered to be obese, and 42% are considered morbidly obese. Yes. Here's also another fact, right? Which racial demographic in the United States has the highest family separation rate? African Americans. Who's going to be affected? The children. I know this. That's why I turned morbidly obese. You guys want to know why people turn morbidly obese? Look at all these kids. Why are they getting so fat the next generation? Because when you're being brought up in these broken, dysfunctional homes, in my case, I was raised without a father. I was raised without a mother, right? They will suffer from extreme anxiety. They will suffer from extreme depression. And what happens is oftentimes these kids, they will struggle in school. That's why they're way more likely to drop out. Yeah, just look at the demographics in every single school board in America. Which racial demographic has the highest dropout rate, right? Which racial demographic is most likely to not show up to schools, right? Truancy, right? Skipping school for absolutely no reason. It's the African American kids. This is 100% related to the complete fallout of the nuclear family. And you guys remember, right? That trans shooter in Tumbler Ridge, BC. Who was the first person he killed? It was his mother. And also, yeah, keep in mind, so where is his father, right? And coming back to the point of obesity, right? Yeah, when you're struggling, when you're being raised without a mother, when you're being raised without a father, when there's so much chaos, when there's so much drama in your family, you're probably going to be suffering socially as well. You're going to have no boyfriend, no girlfriend, you have no social life, you have no friends, you're depressed and you're miserable. And the only thing that can bring you any kind of comfort is food. Yeah, that's how I turned morbidly obese for probably a period of a year and a half after graduating from high school, right? I had no friends, I had no family, I had nobody to talk to. So near where I lived, right, there was a place called Twice the Deal Pizza. Yeah, probably 3 to 4 nights a week, I was ordering their Twice the Deal pizza. So what's the Twice the Deal? You get 2 large pizzas, a box of potato wedgies, and a 2-liter Pepsi. Yeah, I will eat all of that alone in a single sitting. That's how I turned morbidly obese. After graduating from high school, I would say over the course of the next year and a half, I probably put on anywhere between 55 to 60 pounds because I was extremely depressed. I was extremely miserable. And once again, I also dropped out of school, right? This is all 100% factual. If you want to talk about, for example, things like, oh, why aren't black kids graduating high school? How come they're all turning morbidly obese? I suffered from the exact same thing. I suffered every single day, and I wish that wasn't my reality, but it is, and there's absolutely nothing I can do to change it. Yeah, my dad is probably this close, literally, probably less than 1 inch away from turning into Christopher Lee Watts. Yeah, I was this close from turning into another Bella or Celeste. And the fact that my mom chose to marry someone like my dad, at the end of the day, who's most likely to hurt you? It's not some random stranger, right? It's not a coworker. The vast majority of the time, right? If someone were to abuse you, if someone were to strangle you to death, right? If someone were to murder you in cold blood, it's definitely not from a stranger. And it's definitely not from a coworker or friend. Yeah, the vast majority of these cases, unfortunately, right? The perpetrator and the victims, they're all family members. And this case is just so heartbreaking. And I can relate to this case on so many levels. And obviously, there are various other factors to consider. Obviously, there's drugs, alcohol, possibly even video game addiction. Maybe that's where he pissed all of his money away by playing Fortnite or something. So many other possibilities. But I would say the one area that's often overlooked is the gambling industry, right? And also, there's sports betting, right? There's DraftKings, FanDuel, ProLine, Point Spread. All of that is rigged to take all of your money away. You have to stay away from all of these things, right? So to everyone out there who has clicked on this video, right? If you're personally struggling, right? If you're suffering from family abuse, right? You have to reach out to someone. You have to contact someone for support. And if you know someone who is possibly suffering from similar situations as well, especially if that person is a minor, you absolutely do need to contact Child Supportive Services because this is 100% evil. This is demonic, this is satanic, and no children in any part of the world should ever have to suffer from something like this. I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry to Shannon and her unborn child, to Bella and to Celeste. This case is pure evil. And I will definitely come back to this topic, the topic of gambling, the topic of family abuse, the topic of sports betting, the topic of drugs, the topic of alcohol. Because once again, yeah, my dad was part of every single one of them. He did them all, right? He played mahjong, he played poker, both online and in person. He did sports betting, he played slot machines. He was a registered sex offender. He was a chain smoker. He was a raging alcoholic. And I had to suffer from all of that. All because, well, yeah, my mom chose to marry my dad all the way back in 1991. And it doesn't matter how many times I try to block him. Yeah, my mom just keeps forcing my dad back into my life all of these years later. I know this video has gotten extremely long, but yeah, it was just extremely important and extremely emotional for me to share the story, to share these details, right? Because I know I'm not the only one that's suffering. And yeah, you guys want to talk about the black culture as well, right? Obviously, this case, this is a white man's descending to madness, into insanity, but also so many black kids out there are struggling. Yeah. The dropout rates, the obesity rates, right, the crime rates, they show 100%. People who are raised in broken and dysfunctional homes, they have no chance to succeed in life. You guys are wondering why I'm struggling, I'm miserable, I'm in debt? Well, yeah, just look at my family. That's my reality. I have nothing else to say. Just want to say thank you guys so much for clicking on this video and watching it all the way until the end. If you guys have enjoyed the contents of this video, please consider subscribing to this channel, like the video, definitely leave a comment. Please let me know what you guys think of this case. And I will see you guys back on this channel for Friday. Thank you guys so much.